My name is Josh Lockheed, and I'm the training evangelist here at QuoteWerks. With the Pain Point Webinar series, our goal is to dive into common business challenges that businesses face when creating quotes and proposals, or in the case of today, when managing their procurement. We know your time is valuable, so these webinars are fairly short, and we try to keep them under 30 minutes. We want you to be able to apply these solutions as quickly and easily as hopefully your quoting solution is or will be if you've not yet started using QuoteWerks. As I mentioned, today's pain point topic is around procurement, and this is obviously a pain point that a lot of you have likely dealt with. For a lot of you, it's a confusing process. There's multiple steps and having to look for and find information from many sources, and oftentimes there's a lot of people with their hands in the process as well, which can cause some complications. So with that being said, we're going to go through a couple pain points that are related to procurement. We're then going to go through and talk about some of the solutions that QuoteWerks offers to alleviate those pain points. We're then going to go into a live demo where I'll show you how procurement is done in QuoteWerks, and then we'll go to a Q&A at the end of the session if anyone has any lingering questions. Now, with that being said, we do have the questions box here in GoToMeeting, so I want to encourage you to ask questions. Go ahead and put them in the questions box at any time if you have any questions. I will look to answer them as the webinar progresses, and if I'm not able to get to it by the end of the webinar, then I'll follow up with you after the case. That being said, this particular webinar is being recorded, so if you join late or aren't able to have one of your counterparts join, you can always view that recording at a later time. And not to mention, we also have a lot of other ways in which you can engage with us: Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, Instagram. Certainly feel free to follow us on those different pages, and you'll get different updates whether new content becomes available, new releases are made. It's a good way to just stay in touch with the QuoteWerks team. So with that being said, let's dive into the pain points that we're going to be discussing today. There's some questions around, are these some challenges that you've encountered? Ultimately it comes down to, how do you track orders? Is it difficult to find updates? Where can you see previously ordered items? Can you see if they've been received or not? Do you have to go to multiple websites to see serial numbers and tracking numbers? And without the PO creation process, is that something that's manual, and does it require multiple steps? These pain points are associated with, again, the procurement of items, and there's a lack of visibility into that process and a lot of hands in that process. So having a clear and concise way to manage that is a way that you can overcome some of those challenges. And I'm wondering to myself if any of these sound like things that you've been through, and ultimately you can see how complex procurement can be, especially when you need to visit multiple sites to get the data that you need. So with that being said, how can we make it easier? Well, the first solution that we have is to simplify the PO process. QuoteWerks in the purchasing module gives you the ability to place orders directly from QuoteWerks with certain distributors, and or to create manual POs in QuoteWerks, and even have them exported to QuickBooks, Autotask, or ConnectWise. Now, this simplification of the PO process not only means less hands that need to be involved in the process, it means less time and effort, and ultimately savings for your company. So when it comes to simplifying the PO process, the solution that we're going to talk about is going to be the purchasing window, which is the purchasing tab in the QuoteWerks system. The purchasing tab, which we'll get into in more detail during the demo, lists all items included on orders. You can sort by single or multiple orders and use filters to help narrow down which items you want to order. And as I mentioned before, you can either manually create a purchase order, or there's electronic ordering currently in web for Ingram Micro. In desktop, we have Ingram Micro, TD SYNNEX, and D&H. And we'll likely be adding TD SYNNEX and D&H to the web in short order. So keep an eye out for that. And I will show you how the process of placing an order with Ingram Micro electronically works in web. But the process to do that is actually very, very similar for the three distributors that I just mentioned. If you're not currently working with those three distributors and you have other distributors or vendors that you're working with, not a problem whatsoever. As I mentioned, you can manually create and send POs directly from QuoteWerks, and we're going to show you how to do that in just a few minutes here. Solution number two is order tracking, and this is done via the purchasing tab, again, as we discussed. And what you have within purchasing is the ability to see all of your orders in a single location and track statuses, serial numbers, do receiving, and a whole of a lot more. And we're going to, again, dive a little bit deeper into that, but the process is really done via the purchase orders tab in the purchasing window. And this is where you're going to be able to view purchase orders and electronic orders, filter through those orders so you can view different slices of that data, track shipping and receiving, and then also, very important, be able to send updates to internal or external stakeholders as to the status of those POs as well. And then the third solution that we're going to be talking about today is tracking ordered items. And this is done on the ordered items tab, which is where you can locate any item that's actually been included in a purchase order and see all the history of every item that's ever been ordered. In addition, you can see tracking information, shipping information, and all of the other things that you can see on the purchase orders tab, just based on individual items rather than purchase orders. Now, the purchasing window ordered items tab is an image here of it here. Lists all items included on the purchase orders. Again, you can filter down to narrow and also view shipping and receiving information. So when it comes to the procurement module in QuoteWerks, there are a lot of different components, which we have here listed on the screen. So the ability to place electronic orders, the ability to track those orders automatically based on vendor inputs, also manual purchase order creation, receiving items. You have the ability to close POs once all items have been received. And with the orders as they come in, you're going to get tracking numbers, serial numbers. You'll be able to get automatic updates for electronic orders, place comments on different purchase orders, search ordered items, and then, as I mentioned before, get the shipping information either manually or automatically if you're doing an electronic order. So during the live demo, we're going to show you how to submit electronic order. We're going to show you how to create a PO and export it to accounting, how to track serial numbers and shipping information, and then also how to search for ordered items. So with that being said, let's go ahead and hop into our demo environment. Now, I believe, as I alluded to at the beginning of the webinar, I am in QuoteWerks Web today, but everything that we can do in QuoteWerks Web can be done in QuoteWerks Desktop. And if anyone here today wants to see anything in desktop product, just let me know. Be happy to hop over there if we have time and show you how to do things there. So there's a couple things that I want to just point out before we get into the process of actually looking at those three tabs that we discussed earlier. And the first one is what drives a lot of what we're doing here today. First off, is the information that we have for our vendors. Particularly if you're going to be creating manual POs, you want to make sure that your vendor information is in the system and accurate, because that's going to be how we determine who we're sending that to and who's receiving those purchase orders. So vendor maintenance is actually a really important thing when it comes to purchase orders. So I'm going to go ahead and click over on the vendor icon over here, and you'll see that I have my vendors listed here. Now, it's not so much important if you have electronic ordering. So like for Ingram Micro, if you're doing electronic ordering, maybe not as important to have vendor information here, as those orders are going to be submitted electronically. But let's say you're working with a company like Acme Supply, for example. We don't have a direct connection with that distributor. So you want to make sure that when you're putting in the vendor information, that you're including as much information as possible, because that information is what's going to be used to populate the purchase orders. Now, I don't know that I have a contact for Acme, but I do happen to know that I have a contact for Ingram Micro. I'm just going to go ahead and edit this and show you that we have in here the vendor name, the address. We have the ability to store the phone number, the fax, the account number, and then free shipping minimums if we have them, minimum order amounts, minimum order fees, terms, accounting ID. So a lot of different information that we can store here. But really the most important thing when it comes to creating manual purchase orders is that we have a contact, because that contact is going to be the person that the purchase order is written out to, and it's also going to be the person that the email is going to be sent to when you create a purchase order. Now, I've mentioned here that we do have the ability to export POs to Autotask, ConnectWise, or QuickBooks Online. So I just wanted to also show you how you would set up that particular integration, and that's by going to Setup, then Options, and then Accounting. And this is going to be where you're going to set up your overall QuickBooks integration information, but what I'm more concerned with is down here in the purchase order integration section. And this is going to be the purchase order integration that you're using for the system. It can, again, be either QuickBooks, ConnectWise, or Autotask. And this is going to give you the ability when you actually create a manual purchase order to select a button that will automatically export those POs to those external systems. Now, again, you see we have QuickBooks listed here. So you're going to see when we go through and we manually create a PO that we're going to have that ability to export over to QuickBooks. All right, so now that we've gone about the setup, the other thing that I wanted to talk about here is that when it comes to managing purchase orders or using the purchasing module, it's important that you have orders, not quotes, because orders are what are going to ultimately populate our purchasing tab. Now, how do you get an order? Well, ultimately, there's a lot of hard work on your end, right, in order to get over the finish line. But when it comes to QuoteWerks, there's really two main ways that a quote will get converted to an order. If you're using Quote File A and the customer goes in and accepts the order, next time you go into the quote, it's going to automatically prompt you to convert the quote to an order. Alternatively, you can manually convert a quote to an order by going to File and then Convert to Order. So that's what I'm going to do here, just so that we have a newly converted order that we can show you how that works in the purchasing tab. So, looks like we just need to set a payment option here, which I'm going to do quickly. And we're going to go back to Convert to Order. And you'll see that the Convert to Order screen saying that the new document status for this order is going to be open. And we're going to go ahead and close this quote out. And that's exactly what we want to do. We're going to go ahead and hit OK. Now you can see that this is an order based on it saying order over here on the right. And what we were looking for, again, is to be able to populate our purchase orders tab or purchasing tab with this particular order, which if we go and click on the purchasing icon here on the top toolbar, you'll see that we have the ability to either select a currently open order or multiple orders. And in this case, it's displaying the order that we just placed or the order that we currently have open. Now, important to notice that this particular order has multiple different vendors on it. And the way that we're going to be submitting our POs is based on the vendor, right? Because each vendor is going to get a different PO. So in this case, if we wanted to, we could create our POs for this particular order, but we're going to need to create 3 of them, one for each of the different distributors that we have here. Alternatively, you can select multiple orders, in which case you can order items across multiple orders for the same vendor. So for example, if we were to come in here and select D&H as an example, we could come in and order as many of these items as we want under a singular PO. Now, really, this is totally up to you and how you want to manage your purchase order process. But again, the process of putting these purchase orders together is going to really be dependent upon choosing the vendor first and then selecting the products that you want to ultimately order. Now, if I haven't made it clear, the products that we have either in the currently open order or the multiple orders tab are products that are included on orders and that ultimately need to be purchased. When we're in the multiple orders section, really it comes down to having the ability to have a lot of different ways to filter through the results here. Now, I already showed you selecting vendor. You can also select by company. You can also look up ticket number, SO number, item scope, as well as look for specific orders or specific purchase orders that need to be created across different dates. So for example, if we just selected today, this is going to show us what we just had in that order, plus anything else that's been converted to an order for today. Now again, you'll notice that these are all different suppliers, so we're going to want to make sure that we actually go through and select our vendor. And in this case, I'm going to choose Ingram Micro because I want to show you how to electronically place an order. All right, so one thing I also want to mention is that there is an integration here within the purchasing tab with Eatalize and the product content subscription. So if we select one of these items, we can actually open the product sourcing panel, which is going to show us what is available from a pricing and availability perspective across our different vendors. Now, this is actually a great opportunity to go through, make sure that you currently have the right price and there is stock. Now, this particular product doesn't appear to be in stock with Ingram Micro. It is in stock with TD SYNNEX, but for a higher price. So if you did want to order from a different distributor or vendor, all you need to do is select that vendor and hit update. And that's going to update the vendor that's included on that particular item. And then you'd be able to order that from that particular vendor rather than the one that we currently have selected. Additionally, here you can view the spec sheet for the particular product that you have selected. And if you wanted, you can include extended sources as well. Now, extended sources means you can pull information from CDW, Dell, Staples, Amazon, all of those sources, so long as they have that particular part number in their system. And you can see that we've brought up CDW here, which kind of shows us our consumer pricing and gives us an ability to double check, what our customer might be seeing. You can even see there's a link to the website for each of these vendors as well. Now, for the purposes of today's demonstration, I don't want to change the vendor, even though there is no stock. We are going to just be simulating this, so not a problem. But in a normal scenario, you might actually want to go and select TD Synnex, update, and go from there. What we're going to do here is we're going to select our 3 products that we have on this particular display here, and these are items from today that are designated with the vendor Ingram Micro. Again, we can place online orders with Ingram Micro, so I'm going to go ahead and show you that process, and that's done by selecting the items that you want to purchase and clicking on Place Online Order. When you've done that, it's going to open a window that has a list of the items that you have on that particular order, and then it's going to designate a PO number. You have the ability to put in a description, ref ID, your pricing type, end user PO, flooring account, and then special instructions are something that are kind of important because this is going to make sure that the rep at the distributor is going to have to review the order before it's actually placed. So this might be useful if you've, say, negotiated pricing with your vendor, or if you've got a special agreement with them and you want to make sure that you're getting that applied to your order. You just put that in the special instructions section, and that PO will have that information, and that vendor will be able to review it. You also want to input your shipping information, and you can actually copy it from different things in the QuoteWerks system. So we've got our sold to, if you were going to be sending it to your sold to address. Maybe you're going to be sending it to your location, or maybe you're sending it to another location in your business. I'm just going to go ahead and select our location here, and it's going to input this in for us. You also have the ship via, so how you want it to be shipped, your account number, and back order handling as well. We also have sections here for end user information if you've got something like licensing or warranty orders. And we also have a section here for a reseller if you're utilizing a reseller as well. So all important information that can be distributed directly with this order to the vendor. And again, we're in the process of placing an electronic order with this vendor. So once we've got all of that information in place, the next step for us is going to be to go in and verify the pricing and availability. So this is actually going to go out to Ingram Micro and say, hey, are these items still in stock? Are they still the prices that they were on the original quote? And it looks like everything's been updated here. If there were any differences in pricing, it would pop up and ask you, well, how do you want to handle this situation? But in this case, everything looks good. That means we're going to validate the order. And when we were ready to submit the order, all we would have to do is hit submit order, and this order would be electronically placed with our vendor, and we'd have a record of that PO in the QuoteWerks system. Now, I'm not actually going to submit the order because I don't want to actually submit the order to Ingram Micro, but just know that when you do submit the order, there's going to be a box that pops up and gives you all the information about that order so that you can at least see that it's been successfully submitted. All right, I'm just taking a quick look at a question that we got in here. Denise asked, when a manual PO is created to clear out the purchasing items that were purchased elsewhere, is there a way not to push PO information to ConnectWise? There is, and there's a button that you have that'll show you that you can deselect that won't send the PO over to ConnectWise. So I'll show you that in just a minute. So we're going to go back over to the purchasing tab here, and we've already seen how we can create a electronic order. And I just want to show you that now that we've placed that electronic order, I'm sorry, we didn't place the electronic order, we didn't go through with it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to place a manual PO and show you how that process works from going to purchasing to purchase orders to ordered items. So I'm going to go ahead and select a vendor here. I'm going to go to multiple orders. And let's just go ahead and select the D&H because I know I have vendor contacts for them. And we'll select a couple items. And you'll see that manually create PO has just come up for us. So we're going to go ahead and select manually create PO. Now, when we were setting up our vendor, I showed you where you could set up your vendor where there was a minimum order amount or a minimum shipping amount, which we had input there. So this is just telling us, hey, in order for you to get free shipping, you need to have an order over $1,000, and just kind of saying, hey, do you want to actually move forward and place this order because the order itself is not? I'm going to hit yes. And then it's also going to tell you that the order can be submitted electronically via D&H. That's via our QuoteWerks desktop product. All right, so here we are in the create purchase order for D&H. And just to get back to your question, Denise, if you did not want to send this over to ConnectWise, there would be this button down here that if you were connected to ConnectWise would say export to ConnectWise instead. You would just want to make sure that that box is deselected and it won't send the purchase order over to ConnectWise. Now, this is very similar to the screen that we saw when we were placing our electronic order. Only thing that really makes it different is we're going to be putting in our PO number, which we can get an automatically generated one there if we want. And then we have the ability to put in our shipping information as well and bring it in from our system. So I'm just going to go ahead and bring it in from our ship to, or actually we're going to go ahead and ship it to our location. So the other thing, as I alluded to per Denise's question, is you can export these over to QuickBooks, ConnectWise, or Autotask. And that's a great thing to do if your fulfillment process requires for a PO to be created in those systems to manage the fulfillment process. So I'm going to go ahead and click Export to QuickBooks. And I'm ready to submit this PO. So I'm going to hit OK. And again, this is going out to D&H. So what we're doing is we're going and we're pulling in information from D&H and the vendor information that we had to then place the order. Now, what's happening here is it's just saying, hey, one of the items that you are currently creating a purchase order for is not currently in QuickBooks. How do you want to handle that? You have the ability to change whether or not you want it to be non-inventory, inventory, or service, and the income account. And also select I have purchased this product service from a vendor as well if you wish to do so. And that's going to do it for all of the products that don't currently exist in QuickBooks. Not only will it create the products if they don't exist in QuickBooks, but it will create the customers if they don't exist in QuickBooks as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit OK for all. And it looks like we've got another item here. I'm going to hit OK for all. You can see that our PO has been generated. We've got our QuoteWerks PO number, we've got our QuickBooks PO number, and if we wanted to, we could very easily hit email PO and send this off to our vendor directly from the QuoteWerks system. Alternatively, you have the option to save as a PO, as a PDF as well, or to just copy this information if you want. So great way to manage your procurement, and you're able to do it all from one system. Now, once an order has been placed, that purchase order is going to come over into our purchase orders tab. And you can see right here, we have our order from today for QuickBooks. And we have a lot of different filter options that we can use to drill down into specific purchase orders. Now, I'm going to use the one that we just placed today as an example. So I'm going to click on that purchase order. And you can see that it's going to list out the different items that we have on that purchase order. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to right-click on the purchase order itself. And there's a lot of different things that you can do here. You can copy the PO number, you can edit the PO, you can update the PO ETA, send emails, and even send information either to your external stakeholders, your customers, or your internal stakeholders, whether it's the PO status or tracking numbers. This is also going to be where you're going to go and close out the PO once you've received all those items. Now, you might ask, well, how do I receive an item, or how do I get this information into the system? With electronic orders, a lot of the information that is listed down here at the bottom for this particular item is automatically going to come in, like estimated ship date, shipped on. When items are being shipped, you'll get the tracking number and serial numbers. And then when you receive those items, all you have to do is come over and click receive, And if you receive an item in QuoteWerks, it can also receive that item on the PO in QuickBooks, AutoTask, and ConnectWise as well. So in the case where we are working with this particular order, one of the things that we might want to do is say come in and add a tracking number. So we can easily do that. You'll see that it updates the tracking number here. And if you had multiple items on order, then you can add multiple tracking numbers. Same thing with serial numbers as well. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to simulate the receipt of an item. So I'm going to hit receipt. I'm going to put in a serial number. And I could put in a location, an asset tag, and MAC address if I'd like to, but I'm not going to, and hit OK. And if we actually refresh QuoteWerks and then come back into the purchasing tab, you're going to see that that order has changed in terms of its status. So I'm going to go and click back into purchasing. All right, 1 second here. Looks like it's still thinking. Nope. All right, so here we are back on the purchasing tab. If we go back to our purchase orders tab, you can see that it shows that that particular order was fully received because we received the one item that was on that order. And you can see all the different things here have updated, including the quantity ordered, quantity shipped, quantity received. You can even add an internal comment here to this particular purchase order if you'd like. And that could be whatever you might want it to be. And that could help inform maybe other people that are working with these purchase orders of where the status of it is, or ultimately, more information about the particular order. And you'll see that it does show fully received here, and QB indicates that it was exported to QuickBooks. Now, last but not least, we have our ordered items tab. And this is going to be where you could go through and ultimately sort through all of the different items across all of the different purchase orders that you've ordered. You can drill down by customer, you can drill down by PO, ref ID, by date. There's a whole lot of information that you can use to find those particular parts, just like we did here, where we've got items that were just included on today's purchase order. So we've got a purchasing tab, we've got a purchase orders tab, and we've got an ordered items tab, all three working in conjunction in order to be able to provide you with the tools that you need to manage your procurement process. Now, I haven't seen any other questions come in, but if you do have any other questions, feel free to pop them in there as we are getting to the top of the hour. And I do want to also just point out the fact that we've got a number of different resources that are available to you to better understand what you can do with purchasing within QuoteWerks, but also what you can do with QuoteWerks in general. If you go to our website, you'll see that we've got a number of different resources like free trials. We've got tons of different videos on how to do different things within the QuoteWerks system. We've got some really robust help documentation. We also have these live and recorded webinars on a weekly basis. We have services that you can utilize in order to help you with your QuoteWerks environment. We've also got a tips and tricks email that goes out every month with different features that are being explored that are from the QuoteWerks product. And then last but not least, one of the best resources that we have here at QuoteWerks are the people. So if at any point you have any questions about the product itself, feel free to reach out to support. Maybe you've not started using the product yet, but you want to get on a demo and kind of learn a little bit more about how QuoteWerks works. Feel free to reach out to our sales team, and their information is all up there. I haven't seen any other questions come in. I'm going to go ahead and hang out here for just a few more minutes. But if you don't have any questions, feel free to drop off, and we'll go from there. So thank you very much for your time. And again, I'm going to hang out here for just another minute in case any questions come in, but feel free to drop off if you don't have any questions.